we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all this morning for joining us in some temporary. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Thank you all for joining us in some temporary arrangements to make do with or make accommodations for the current budget hearings that are going on down at City Council. My name is Patrick Murphy. I am sitting in for both the chair and the vice chair of Planning Commission. I'm the acting commissioner for the Department of Planning and Development and the zoning administrator for the city, and also a Planning Commission member. So we'll go ahead and get started. Before we get to the full meeting agenda for October 2023 Chicago Planning Commission, I would like to quickly provide guidance to those who want to provide testimony to the cases presented for the public hearing today. A few of you have already submitted forms electronically, but for anyone else who may wish to testify before the Planning Commission, please fill out sheets located on the table where you entered the room. Please include your full name, address, if you are for or against the proposal, and if you are representing yourself or an organization. Please hand your sheets to one of the staff members. People who have completed the forms will be called on after each item is presented. Out of respect for other speakers, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please line up at the microphone behind me. And where is it? I'm not sure where it's at.
We're gonna take it from here.
Perfect. Please line up at the microphone over there. And I will call your name, and please do not repeat comments that have been made by previous speakers. The public comment portion of the meeting is not intended as a question and answer session of the staff or the applicant, but an opportunity for attendees to voice their opinions on a particular proposal. Out of respect for others, please do not interrupt or disrupt the speakers. Any individual who disrupts the presentation or any subsequent comment session may be asked to leave, or if necessary, may be escorted out of the building. We'll now do a roll call. Sorry, hold on just a second. All right, Lester Barkley, Tom Carney, Andre Brumfeld, no. Alderman Dowell, no. Rosa.
Here.
Laura Flores, no. Mayor Johnson, no. Alderman Laspada, no. Myself, Patrick Murphy, Sarah Lyons, no. Jim Horan, no. Carlos Pinheiro, yes, here, thank you. Alderman Ramirez Rosa. Guacolda Reyes,
Here.
yes, thank you. Claudette Soto, no. Alderman Cicho Lopez, no. Alderman Spasado, Daniel Tillman, I'm sorry, Danielle Tillman, sorry. And Alderman Villegas, yes. Thank you, sir. All right, we do have a quorum. Next, for this month's meeting, as I said, both chair and vice chair are unavailable. Do the plan commissioners have any questions regarding my chairing the meeting? No, seeing none, we'll move on. Can I have a motion for myself to chair the meeting in the absence of both chair and vice chair?
So moved.
Yes, thank you. And a second.
Second.
Right. Sorry, 2 seconds here. Any objections? Hearing none. Approved. Minutes. We'll now approve the minutes from the September 21st, 2023 regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting. The minutes were distributed prior to today's hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from that regularly scheduled meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Superintendent. Where are you, Escarino? Thank you. Second. Yes. No. Yeah. So I was second. Second by Alderman Villegas. Thank you, sir. Any objections or changes? Hearing none. Minutes are approved. Public testimony. Just a reminder, as we have returned to in-person hearings, we will take public comments for items on the agenda after each item has been presented. If you have not already done so and you wish to speak on an item, please complete a testimony slip available here in the courtroom, here in the room. You can see Noah Safranek. All right, item 5. We're going through a series of deferrals from today's agenda, 3 items. First item is item C7, a resolution recommending a proposed ordinance authorizing the disposition of city-owned land generally located at 4337 South Lake Park Avenue to Chandra Cooper in the 4th Ward. I need a motion to defer.
So moved.
Zach Wacholda, thank you.
Yes.
And a second?
Second, here, Pinheiro.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Any objections? Hearing none, item 1 is passed. Item 2, C12, a resolution recommending a proposed ordinance authorizing the disposition of city-owned land generally located at 3927 West Adams to the Nehemiah Group, 3920 West Jackson Boulevard to NFP Changing Oasis, 4236 West Monroe to Victoria Giddens, 352 South Costner to Brian Ramson, 4441 West Adams to Tamika Jenkins, and 3843 West Washington to Stephanie Novak, all in the 28th ward. I have a motion to defer that, item 2.
So. Scanlon.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Tillman.
Thank you very much. Any objections? Hearing none, the second deferral passes. Item C13, a resolution recommending a proposed ordinance authorizing the disposition of city-owned land generally located at 543 North Long Avenue to Regarding 2050 LLC, property at 4915 West Ohio to Tanika Payton, property at 4907 West Huron to Regina Lewis, and property at 438 North Laverne to Jorge Lopez, all in the 37th ward. Can I have a motion to defer those items?
So move Reyes.
Thank you. And a second?
Second, Scanlon.
Thank you. Any objections? Hearing none, third item passes for deferral. Thank you. Next, we have matters to be heard in accordance with the Interagency Planning Referral Act. Do I have a motion to approve numbers C1 through C6, C8 through C11 under the disposition heading, with the reminder that items C12, 7, and 13 were previously deferred?
So move Scanlon.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Tillman.
Thank you very much. Any objections? Hearing none, the omnibus items are passed. Now we'll move on to the public hearing presentation for portions, for matters submitted in accordance with the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance and or the zoning ordinance. The only item on today is listed as item D1, a proposed Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance application submitted by Dom Acquisitions, property generally located at 6521 South Blackstone Avenue. The property is currently zoned RM5 and is within the private use zone of the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection District. The applicant proposes construction of a 4-story residential building with 14 residential units and 14 parking spaces in the 5th ward. Landon Walter will provide context overview and present the plans.
Good morning. For the record, my name is London Walther, a city planner for the Southeast region with the Department of Planning and Development. I'm here to introduce a proposed lakefront protection ordinance item in the 5th ward as represented by Alderman Desmond Yancey. The applicant, Dom Acquisitions LLC, is requesting the approval of a lakefront protection ordinance application to construct a 4-story, 14-unit residential building at 6521 South Blackstone Avenue. Nick Fatikas, the applicant's attorney, and members of the development team are here with me today to present the project. The project is located in the Woodlawn community area, which has a rich and diverse history. Woodlawn is the home to Jackson Park, which, as many of you know, is the site of the 1893 World's Fair. Woodlawn is a predominantly African-American neighborhood that was first developed in parallel with the World's Fair. The population is currently a little over 24,000 people, which is down from its mid-century peak of over 80,000 people. But after decades of depopulation and disinvestment, the neighborhood has seen an increasing interest following the planning and now construction of the Obama Presidential Center. The project site is located at 6521 South Blackstone Avenue. Between the Metro Viaduct and Stony Island is approximately 1 block west of Jackson Park and about a quarter mile south of the Obama Presidential site. Mount Carmel is also located about a block north of the site. The area south of Mount Carmel, north of 67th Street and between the Metro Tracks and Stony Island has a large cluster of city-owned parcels, which is indicated by the orange hat sites. It is a focus area for the Department of Planning and Development's Come Home initiative for infill housing development. I'll note that this is a lakefront protection item only and does not involve any land sales or city zoning change. It is therefore right except for the approval of the LPO. Larger planning context includes nearby efforts, including the 2018 South Lakefront Plan, which created the framework for revitalizing Jackson Park, as well as the South Shore quality of life corridor plans. These are nearby and don't directly affect the site, but are shown to indicate that there is an increasing planning effort and focus on this general area. Now I would like to pass it off to Nick Vatikas with Sandbanks Law Offices to go over the details of the proposed project.
Thank you, London. Again, my name is Nick Fatikas, and I'm one of the attorneys at the law offices of Sandbanks, and I'm working on behalf of the applicant with respect to this lakefront protection application. The page that you're looking at right now is a block plan to provide context. We are a corner property at Blackstone and East 65th Place. We are using a Blackstone address because our residential entry is off of the Blackstone side of the property, but we did want to maintain a frontage consistent with the other buildings that front on 65th Place. So that's just to give an idea that, again, most of the buildings front, not most, all of the buildings front on 65th Place and have parking access from the rear alley. Go to the next slide. The next slide is just a summary of the heights of existing structures, and then in comparison of ours. Ours is shown all the way at the left, again at 47 feet 6 inches. The range is between 42 feet and 45 feet to the buildings to the east of ours. Next, please. Go back one. So this is just, it's a very clean site plan showing the landscaping at the front of the property along 65th Place. The footprint of the building, there will be 6 parking spaces inside the building and then 7 parking spaces at the rear of the property. What we did in working with the department was incorporate bicycle parking as well as an ADA compliant parking space. So we reduced the total number of parking spaces from 14 to 13. This is a transit served location, so we're still well in excess of our technical parking requirement. The technical parking requirement being 7 based on our 14 unit total. And again, 13 parking spaces to support the 14 residential units. Go to the next slide. I think these are just pedestrian context of the existing structure. One of the things to note is that many of the buildings in the immediate area have more of a traditional brick and limestone or brick and detail design. We therefore tried to complement that by not so much replicating, but by taking cues and proposing a more traditional facade for our building. Go to the next slide. And that's where we have, again, the stone at the base and then stone accents, vertical or horizontal accents as you get higher on the building, and then some of the accents around the windows, consistent with some of the other traditional buildings in the subject area. Next. So again, just a timeline. We did file our application back in August. Traffic study was not deemed necessary. I would make the adjustment or the amendment that it is 13 cars, not 14, but the 14 unit residential unit total remain the same. And then we are projecting 40 construction jobs and about a $10,000 open space fee for the development. Again, a cleaner version of the site plan showing the building, the parking at the rear access from the alley, and then the front setback, or what will function as a front setback from 65th Place. just a site planning or a floor plan showing the 6 interior parking spaces, the 7 exterior outdoor parking spaces, and then the bicycle parking along with the now ADA compliant parking space at the rear of the property. And then typical floor plans for the units, the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom offer or design is what will make up all of these units. So the plan set that you're looking at right now is the typical floor plan for floors 2, 3, and 4 of the building. There's no roof deck proposed, but there is roof access to Access Mechanicals. And this shows the access stair at the top of the building. And then here are dimensioned elevations showing the floor to ceiling heights of the residential floors, and then the overall height of the building. And that's the side view from Blackstone. And I point out right in the middle at the first floor is the residential access and why we're asking for seeking a Blackstone address. I'm going to get to you could probably go to the end of the rest. So if you go back 1 page, I'm sorry. And that just shows, as London commented, the project is designed to otherwise comply with the underlying RM4 zoning district. The only relief in this case is the lakefront protection application based on the site's proximity to the Chicago lakefront.
And then what,
Start doing this.
did it say administrative adjustment about rear yard open space?
There was a rear yard open space adjustment previously issued back in May of 2022. And that was
For this project?
for this project. It did have a different address though, Commissioner. At that point, we were using 1504 East 65th Place.
But it's been approved in the permits.
Already been
approved. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just the fencing detail around the perimeter. And then again, a color rendering showing our proposal, again, a more traditional design to match the aesthetic and the character of the area that the property is located in.
Again, for the record, I'm Lyndon Walther from DPD. The Department of Planning and Development has reviewed the project materials submitted by the applicant and has concluded that this proposal is in compliance with the applicable policies of the Lakefront Plan of Chicago and the purposes of the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance based on the following policies. Number 1, policy number 8. The proposal will increase personal safety by activating an underutilized stretch of South Blackstone Avenue by reducing the amount of vacant land and increasing density and eyes on the street. Policy number 10, the proposal will promote a harmonious relationship between the Lake Shore Parks and the community edge by bringing more residential units within 2 blocks of Jackson Park. Policy number 4, the proposal is consistent with the residential density, scale, and fabric of the existing community. The Department of Planning and Development has determined that the policies not enumerated here are not applicable or not the primary objectives of this proposal. Please refer to the staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, it is the recommendation of the zoning administrator of the Department of Planning and Development that this application, being in conformance with the provisions of the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance, be approved subject to the compliance with the plans presented to you today. DPD staff and representatives of the development team are here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions? Yes.
So is this project is for rental of house or for sale?
No, the units are for rent.
Okay. So it is zone RM5, so. So is this by right they can do the 14 units?
Yes.
Okay.
So every so often, there are going to be non-planned developments that proceed by right, sometimes pursuant to a zoning change that happens before they get here. Build the project that they otherwise build by right, pull a permit tomorrow, save for the fact that it's in the Lakefront Protection District. That being the case here, that's why they're at the hearing today.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's a land use issue, not a specific zoning issue. There are a handful of these every year.
And because it's rentals, I'm assuming it's gonna be all the 14 units on market rate.
Yes, and the market rates that we're projecting are between $1,800 and $2,000 a month in rent.
And that's not applied here.
Correct.
There's no
We're
map.
not gonna be-
Just in terms
Yes.
of the rent,
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. No, go right ahead. Is that all you had?
were you done? I
Yes,
apologize.
no.
I was just gonna ask something along, in terms of the rental range, is that the market rate right now in this area?
Yes, yes, and there hasn't been, admittedly, there's a little bit of risk there because there hasn't been as many new development projects offered. A lot of the units in the area are existing. So we are offering again, a new construction building. We'll call it condo quality finishes. And we think that the 1,800 to 2,000 projection is consistent with the market. Yes.
And is the general commitment here to keep it a rental, or is there a future vision for conversion to condo type settings?
It's always possible that it can be converted in the future. However, the applicants does own and manage a number of other properties, rental properties in the city. I think at least initially, unless the market were to change significantly, the plan is for more of a long-term hold and an investment in the property.
Just one final question on parking. I think you said that you reduced the number of parking from 14 to 13, but that the required is only 7.
Yes.
In terms of just, it's a residential area and certainly parking is always important. But just in terms of mobility and being environmentally thoughtful about less vehicles versus more vehicles, and just making sure that there is an opportunity there to continue to just keep the parking not oversaturated in a community like this.
Understood. And I think again, without speaking for the department, we thought it was an opportunity to, because we have that surplus of parking, again, per code, to provide an ADA compliant parking space and then also to incorporate bicycle parking. As London had mentioned, we're blocks away from the lakefront from the park. We anticipate that being a bit of a draw to the property. So to be able to have on-site bicycle parking and then again, an ADA compliant space, we could offset the parking by just the one, reduce it by one and still accomplish the same goals.
Any other questions from commissioners? And then we can go to the public that are here to speak. No, okay, seeing none. Candace Vogler.
Okay,
I think, do you have their microphone? Or-
they can just stand up and speak. The pod's gonna pick it up.
Fine, perfect.
Bye. Let's see, I think I've lived beside this particular lot for a very long time. I purchased 2 strips of it under the large lots program in order to preserve it as a green area because it's become an absolute center of activity for the neighborhood and the community. There's like a raised gathering area, there's a large picnic table, there's a lot of garden beds, there's mature trees that have been planted, and it's a major gathering place in our neighborhood for children after school and slightly older kids after school. It's one of the few sort of safe, clear, clean, and overseen by the neighborhood spaces in our little part of Woodlawn for kids and young people and families to gather. It's been the site of June 19th parties. During the lockdown, any family gathering that anybody in the neighborhood needed to have was held there because it's a safe, shaded, beautiful place that's been maintained for more than a decade by the people who live next door, right? And so it's a little bit misleading to describe it as though it's a vacant lot where nothing has happened. There are paths, there's a stone wall along the alley that's been built. There's a raised playground for children. there's a large picnic table and there's lively gardening there. So, it's a little bit insulting to the community to describe this as a place where nothing happens. All you have to do is walk onto it to see all that happens. Or talk to any of the kids who play there, or their parents who are so grateful that there's a place for their kids to play. Even in the photographs you showed, you could see mowed lawns and stuff. That would be us who do that. The first time those folks ever even sent anybody to mow the lawn was like last summer or something. And, you know, it was already, of course, tended because the whole lawn is tended by the neighbors. When I first moved there, it was a site for dumping. There was a lot of violence. There was a sort of hidey hole under the cove of mulberry trees where thieves would toss women's handbags once they'd taken things out of them. That was what it was like before. But for more than a decade, that whole lot has been looked after, cared for, and loved by the people in the neighborhood who use it routinely for all kinds of things. So there's only one other owner besides me who owns a strip of it. But you guys sure didn't contact me about anything. And you sure didn't actually walk around on the lots to see what was there or talk to any of the community people who relied on it for more than a decade as a central gathering spot and safe place in our area. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. I want to clarify a few things. Can you put a map of the block? You've said a couple of times that you own portions of this.
Yeah, I own two pieces of it. Do you want the pin numbers?
Well, I want to understand that because there really can't be two conflicting owners and.
I don't mean I own their lot.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
It's four lots.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're clear on that because.
No, it's four lots.
Okay, and so the project that's proposed and the permits they filed for, is there a way you can show who owns what?
I own,
Not on the power,
okay,
but there, I have to say.
I own 1514 East 65th Place, and I own 1508 East 65th.
Okay, so just so we're clear though, the parcels you own are adjacent, but they're not included in what they're
Right.
proposed. Okay, that's all I want to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay,
right. But
thank you.
did they talk to me about this?
Well,
Heck, no.
okay, that's a different issue. The ownership was what I wanted to make clear. Next, Thomas Galkin.
Hello, so I'm also a neighbor of the property that's there. I lives in the building next to the property just to the north for about 40 years now, but I'm a Woodlawn resident for almost 2 decades. I can't say too much more that clarifies what Candace already said about the property. I submitted comments in writing as well. But I did want to just emphasize that the use of the space that Candace and the others in the community have developed over the last decade or more has included the entire parcel. It's a park space essentially, right? So even though they don't own the specific property that's being discussed today, the plans that have been developed for their own lots have included that space because they were vacant, unused, and part of this entire parcel. Those plans continue, right? Every year, these gardens are developed, the space is maintained, people use it, and they're going. And there are active discussions about preserving these spaces in a more permanent way, through, various mechanisms that the city provides or other organizations provide for preserving community spaces. So this is that's one point I wanted to make, and the other point is just to emphasize that when you describe the plots, the use of this area, both on the map here, which says, vacant, it's just not true, right? It's not vacant. So that's important because when you describe that area as, or the space is underutilized and vacant, that's just not true, right? So that's important for the future of not just this property, but the adjacent properties, their ability to continue their plans, which have been underway for over a decade, is affected directly by the construction of this building. So I think the one thing that I want to convey is that the community encourages development of the area. We are all in favor of buildings being developed on empty lots. The developer is already doing that down the street on 65th Place. There is no objection from the community that I'm aware of to that kind of development. But this is the only lot in the area that actually is actively used. And so that's really critical. And we just feel we need an opportunity to make it work with any development.
I guess I just want to make sure that when you talk about the development of this property impacting the parcel that you own to the east, there's not an issue regarding them encroaching. There's not an issue regarding them encroaching on what you own or what you're doing.
There is.
Okay, so if there is an encroachment, if they're performing anything, be it through construction or what they own or going to operate that encroaches on what you own, that can be handled through a private matter between the two property owners. It will be addressed at the building permit stage because there will have to be a survey that clearly shows ownership and who has control of which portions of the property. But to the degree there is, if you're claiming a physical encroachment, that is something to be handled privately with this owner or whoever it is that owns the ultimate construction. Move on to the next person.
Go ahead.
Hank Voglis, please.
Vogler.
Vogler.
I'll pass others.
Okay.
I'll reiterate briefly that I appreciate the development generally. Very happy to see putting buildings up on actually blighted lots. Just in the next block over, if this project was across the street, nothing but enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, on the other side of Lexington.
Which is the city owned lot.
Yeah, or the other side.
So I just I'll register that and then pass to somebody else.
All right. Tina Maria Scalzini.
I don't.
Oh, I agree. I'm sorry.
All right, there's quite a few issues that I have. One is I'm a relative newcomer. I've only been there in Woodlawn for 9 years. I'm at one of the other end of the block. Not only did I not find out about this until, what was it? I think it was last Tuesday, not this previous Tuesday, the Tuesday before. There has been no notification up and down our block. I've run around to all our neighbors. With all due respect, sir, this is being railroaded to us. There, not only was there no notification, there's a garden already there. What they're not showing you is the 3 lots that are kitty corner and across the way that are all virtually empty, that this project could be going on. Again, we are not anti-development, but we are, that is a garden. It's a community garden. It's a wonderful place. This should have been, we should have all been notified. None of us were. And this just reeks of being railroaded to us as a community. One other thing, your project, there's a law in Woodlawn. We put it on the ballot and I know I personally voted for it. There are supposed to be set aside. I didn't hear that in your presentation. You have a 33 or 34% set aside that you are supposed to have, not just market rate, but set asides for low income or disabled or whatever, but it is a set aside. I would do my homework. The other thing is, if you want goodwill towards this project, look at the other 3 corners. Leave this one alone. The community utilizes it. We care about it and we're here. And if I know there would have been more people if we'd all known. Everybody was last minute, so we were all scrambling. And that's what I have to say. If you have any questions for me, but the reason I bought my property was because of that lot. I loved it. I didn't even know any of these people. I just drove down there, saw the house, and as I was driving away, that clinched it. Seeing that land, and it is developed. So you can talk all you want about ownership and all that. It's being used and people have the right of way.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So I
Commissioner
just have a couple of questions. So number one, when there is a zoning change, is there notification to the area residents about what is coming? Supposed to be.
No, wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. So just a second. So, like I said before, this project was not subject to a zoning map amendment. This was by right. Hold on a second. It was a by right project that is only here for purposes of the scale of the development. The ownership and the zoning were either an ownership transaction with the city, and the zoning was already in place. There was no map amendment necessary. There is a notice requirement that comes with the Plan Commission lakefront ordinance. We will confirm that that notice was sent properly. I didn't have any indication that it wasn't before. We will confirm.
None of us were.
We'll confirm what notice was sent. That's fine. We can certainly double check that. But from a standpoint of what the Plan Commission has purview over, it is in regards to the scale of the project in relation to the lakefront protection standards that were discussed at the end of the presentation. From an ownership standpoint, the property was city-owned, is in the process of being transferred, unless it's already been transferred, already under ownership by the applicant. Those rights that they have through the purchase that was approved by City Council would supersede anyone else's usage of the city-owned land at some point in time in the past. Yes.
The second comment I just wanted to make is that I think it's wonderful to learn about the city lot program and the beautiful things that are being done. So I credit you for really building a beautiful garden that on property that is designated to you as the owner. I think it was important, and thank you for checking to the commissioner here for checking and verifying the property lines and who owns what. So I just wanted to say kudos to you, but I also hear that there is a city-owned lot across the street, and I don't know what the plans are, but in terms of the great program the city has put together in terms of expanding or offering the local lots to local residents to make sure that they're doing something that benefits that community. Again, I just want to point to, not sure what is happening across the street. Obviously, this transaction has already gone through city council, ownership has been transferred. I just wanted to acknowledge the good efforts for the community, but also there is a lot across the street where beautification and expansion of green space is a consideration. Again, I don't know what that is, but there is a great program that's in place, and just, looking for progress to continue in the beautiful things that the community is already doing.
Before we get to, thank you, Commissioner. Before we get to the last few folks, if there is interest on any of yours part in acquiring property that the city owns on this block or nearby or across the street, the gentleman sitting here behind me, Nelson Chung, oversees the land sales that take place through our department. He's more than willing to talk to you afterwards to explain the programs that may be possible and the land that may be available that's in our inventory. Next person is Nahaya Pruitt.
Nakia.
No, Nakia, I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. So I have been I'm a homeowner, first generation. We talk about the history of Woodlawn and the historic context of what this community has and who lives in this community. As a woman of color and understanding how much the community means to a lot of us in this particular space, when we're talking about, it's already been said, but I'm just going to reiterate in a different context. When we talk about community spaces and where there is a lack for us to actually convene, we don't really have a lot of community spaces for us to do things, for us to garden. We can talk about food deserts, right? We can talk about the lack of produce that we have. We can talk about the lack of community spaces when we talk about where our children can go to actually play. You see, we don't have that privilege. And so we have people in our community who actually said, you know what, let's do something. We're talking about 10 years ago. You all just all of a sudden want to come and start building things. All of a sudden now we're building because there's an investment all of a sudden now coming to our community. Why wasn't it worth an investment 10, 20 years ago? That's my concern. And the other concern is when we're talking about a community space, this is not just the space where we convene. This is the space for families. We don't have places where we can go to the parks down the street to go and do things. This is all we have. And like they said, like there are other community lots, vacant lots across the street that you can do these things over. There's already living people, living things already in the space. And so what would happen is that then you would build this building in places where probably none of you all probably haven't ever even visited outside of just coming to take pictures. Let's just be real. This is where we live. This is where we breathe. This is where we pay taxes. And this is our community space. And what you're doing is you're not just taking it just from, it's not just a garden. You're taking a place where we actually fellowship, where we actually connect, and we actually have community. Why? Because we don't have investments that want to say, hey, let's build some other things for community members outside of homes. So this was really an investment of that people really want to do for our community. We'll build some other things, build some other parts. But we're talking about an actual space where we can actually have community and meet people, meet our neighbors, have produce, have gardening, have these things, and fellowship with people, with children. This is not just for adults, this is for also kids that don't have places to go. They don't have places to go before school and after school. We know the violence in our community, right? We understand, you all watch the news, you hear the stats. We don't have places. And so when we have these type of places in our community, they mean something. These things that people actually done and put their hard work in for years is a blessing to be able to see. Especially during the pandemic, when there was a lockdown and folks was having mental health crisis, this home and this community was a safe haven. Where we can actually go and garden and learn indigenous practices of what healing looks like. This is not just a garden. This is the space of healing for people. Healing for children and for generations to come. You can feel free to build right across the street if you want to. But what you would do is you would take land where people actually heal. And don't we have a good history of destroying places of people where indigenous people
Okay,
live?
thank you.
Just to have these spaces.
I would just add that we will have staff from our department follow up. There are a number of efforts that the planning department the planning staff in our department carry out in communities throughout the city to look at the curriculums, to look at the creation of open space and how to cultivate more gathering spaces in communities, whether it's here, whether it's on the west side or the north side. So if you could stay for a moment afterwards, I'll have the person from our staff follow up with you. We can certainly talk about other opportunities to work with the aldermanic office, to work with the park district, to work with a whole host of opportunity, or to create a whole host of opportunities in your communities. All right, next person. Sorry, ma'am, it's not a question and answer. The commissioners have questions. We will certainly follow up with you, but we do have other speakers to get to. Gabrielle Pamonte.
Good morning, commissioners. I am here to request that you delay approval of this project based on what I would say is actually a violation of the lakefront protection ordinance. I'll wait till you're done talking. Please don't include this in my timing or the time taken. So this is going to actually reduce the safety in this area. The concept, lakefront protection, the idea is you get eyes on the street because there aren't enough people, so you're building something. We have people in this intersection specifically because of the community space that's been built. And by building in a space directly next to a gardening space and encroaching on some of this, you're going to destroy improvements that have been made around a mulberry tree that's on the lot line. So that'll be certainly destroyed. I imagine staging could potentially have impact as well as just the effects of construction. A 4-story building next to a garden kills a garden. That's just, the function of light. But as has been mentioned, this whole corner has been used. So you're going to make it a less safe intersection in violation of the lakefront protection point that you specifically said was the reason why you wanted this to happen. As far as the affordability and whether it's in the market, your lowest price point is $400 a month more than my 3-bedroom apartment. So this is out of line, out of keeping with, you know, what's happening there. I would encourage just a conversation. So none of us are saying don't build here. And when you hear us say there are lots across the street, first of all, this intersection literally is vacant lots. One of which is even larger than all of these put together. We mean that as we're opening a dialogue, which should have happened through the Aldermanic office, which should have happened through the Department of Planning and the people who acquired this lot. We would like to really encourage you. We want to all work together to develop this area, but let's have the kind of partnership east of the IC tracks that you all have west of the IC tracks with Alderman Taylor. And when you're doing these things, let's be brought into the conversation and not hear about it after the fact. A couple of immediately abutting buildings got notification, and that's why the rest of us are here. We would like to have a conversation. Please delay this vote. Let us have a conversation about this, and let's going forward, Department of Planning, talk about what you want to do in Woodlawn east of the tracks. We want to be at these meetings to support what's happening. But we have to say, really, this is, at this point, not a good project for us. And honestly, to not have had a conversation about whether there's going to be affordability in this building in Woodlawn, you all know, planning knows what it's like to go to Woodlawn with these building projects. That's a very serious topic and has to be taken very seriously if you know the impacts. The city council has had a whole ordinance to try to protect from this kind of, above the existing market rate development that's going to throw the balance of the neighborhood out of whack. So I'm not necessarily, I didn't say I was in favor or against when they asked to check the box. I said, I'm not checking it because I'm not against this project. I want to see development. I want developers to invest where we are, but let's do the work together. And literally, I do want you to think about whether this is something that can be across the street across on 65th Place or across from Blackstone. You literally have 3 other intersection, lots of that intersection to choose from. Thank you.
And the last person is Butler Adams.
I'm over here.
Yes.
For the record, my name is Butler Adams. I don't live on this block, but I am a Woodlawn resident. My family has owned property in the neighborhood for more than 100 years. Basically, all my family members went to McCosh Elementary on 66th Street. In terms of the design of this building, I want to start with that first. I like the architecture of the building. Does fit in with the neighborhood. This is, I believe, the 3rd project this year I've had a chance to speak on this block and in this area. And of the projects, this one is one of the nicest, so I appreciate the architecture. One thing I'll say is, because I noticed it on the drawings, is please do improve the aesthetics of your garage door. That's one thing that kind of got to me. Otherwise, I hear everyone over here to my left front talking about community areas and community gardens. I understand that, but unfortunately, you don't own the property. You have the 2 parcels, but this piece of land you don't own. There's a piece of land across from my property, which is I have a 6 flat, my family has a 6 flat. It's never, ever, ever, ever in the history of the neighborhood been developed. If someone wants to build on that property, that's what's gonna happen. It's as of right, they're not seeking a zoning change. I don't think they're seeking TIF funds, so I don't think they have to have, a certain number of affordable units if they're not seeking TIF funds, and they're not seeking TIF funds. In terms of the history of this area, as of right now, Woodlawn has about 30,000 people. At one time, we had 80,000 people. At one time, there was a building on this block. My mom used to take me to the McDonald's on 66 all the time when I was a kid. I remember watching buildings on that block being torn down 35 years ago. So for me, as someone who's been in the area all my life, I'm glad to see brand new development in this area. West Woodlawn has not seen a whole lot of development. East Woodlawn has. Understand there's a green space here, but you also have Jackson Park right across the street. Understand there are vacant lots in this area, and I hope the developers who are here find more of these pieces of land and build more buildings on these properties. The area does need residential units. We have a vacant lot right next to my family's building. And right next door to that, there's another building. We own that land. It's landscape. It gets sunlight, it grows, it thrives. Just because the building is going to be built here does not mean that the remaining land is not going to thrive. So I'm in support of this project. I hope it gets built. I hope there are more projects like this in this area. And to also bring back with the context, at one time, Woodlawn had buildings of 10 floors. There was a building called the Wedgewood. on Woodlawn, like 65th Street, was 10 floors. At one time, at 63rd and Dorchester, a 10-story building. This is only 4 stories. It's 5 feet taller than the tallest building on the block. I'm done with this. I support this.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any additional questions for staff or the applicant? Is anybody here from the Alderman's office? Yes.
I do have a couple of questions
Yeah.
related to this whole dynamic, because I think we can't, we have to consider everything here. Regarding the notices, did we confirm if the notices were provided appropriately?
We have notices all around. No, we did not. None of my neighbors, and we're owner occupied condos. None of us got notices. Our condo association didn't get notice, and neither did we. None of us. It was all news to us, everybody that I spoke with. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's an absolute lie.
Nick, can you?
Commissioner,
sit
yeah,
with
Commissioner,
Noah
I
to
did, we did
confirm
send,
the-
it was a total of 122 notice letters that were sent via regular mail on September 5th. My office provided a copy of the list of notice recipients as well as an affidavit that we did deposit them in the mail that day. I'd also point out that this matter was originally scheduled for hearing with the Plan Commission last month and was continued to today because we had to work through some departmental reviews to be able to bring the application for you with approvals from the various departments. So in addition to proper notice being sent, there was already a continuance to a date certain to today.
And when you say that notices were sent, so who would you send, who do you send these notices to?
The taxpayers of record, the property owners within 250 feet of our property, and we get that.
250 feet of the
Yeah.
property, everyone should have received.
And we, yes, sir, we presume they do because again, we prepared 124 notice letters and put them in the mail. So yes, it's a 250-foot radius. And we obtained that list from a company called Chicago, or Property Insight, which is a division of Chicago Title, as I understand it, to get the most current tax roll for notice.
Okay, Noah Granick has a list of all the notices that were sent out according to this. We'll confirm, I know he's talked to a few of you already, we'll confirm that the addresses are properly.
Yeah,
None of us, nobody. And he and I are around, we share an alley. I'm on 65th Place, he's on 65th Street. No one on 65th Place that I know of, and we're on the same.
Well, okay, and regardless of whether someone is aware that they received the letter or has forgotten, or it was sent 2 months. Okay, all right, ma'am, or that it was received for the hearing that was scheduled prior to this, for which no notice to move it was required. If the proper addresses are on the notice, that is acknowledgement that it was properly noticed. I do not know what happened with the mail that was sent to someone's home. However, I will also tell you that when notice is disputed regarding zoning and land use matters, the fact that folks are at the hearing at which the item is discussed, of which you all are, is acknowledgement that you were noticed because you are actually here to discuss it.
Then we need to postpone
We,
this. So we
No, no,
need-
not the email, sir.
We know. what we
If you do object to the notice that we have recorded from the applicant or any of the proceedings, and if it is affirmatively approved at this hearing today, you are welcome to appeal it. But the fact that you are here is acknowledgement that you are aware of the project, which is what notice is designed to accomplish.
No, that's not, that doesn't make sense.
Do any other commissioners have any other questions? Yes.
Chair, I'm also curious about a fourth, because we're talking about the community on this report. Has the alderman expressed himself about the project itself?
I was just asking if the alderman's here. No,
I'm not. No.
it's Brandon. Is there a letter from the alderman or an acknowledgement from Alderman Yancey?
We have a verbal from the alderman to move this forward. Yeah. He was unable to attend this meeting today. Yeah.
Sorry, ma'am, it is not a back and forth question with the general public. Are there any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, see none. Do I have a motion on this lakefront protection ordinance submitted by Dom Acquisitions for the property generally located at 6521 South Blackstone Avenue, finding that it meets requirements for approval of a lakefront protection ordinance matter?
So move right this.
Do I have a second on the motion? And I will go through a roll call. Sorry, give me just a second. All right. Commissioner Pinheiro,
Yes.
I have a proxy vote yes from Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Tillman
Yes.
and Commissioner Murphy, yes. Item passes. Okay, at this time, we're adjourning the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Wakolda, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Chairman Pierre. Any objections? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Maybe.
All right. Yep. That's okay.
We get a map. Yes. So it'll highlight the. I don't know if I can do that. I appreciate the recommendation.
Yeah.
Orange. This is why.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of vacant lots, so.
Yes.
Let's say that was all. Oh, yeah. Sure. Right.
Love of community. There's a lot of part of the less small. It's like.